Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. In a surprising reversal, the Turkish Constitutional Court ruled on July 26th that the sentences given to 10 academics who signed a petition to protest the Turkish military's operations in the southeast 3 years ago violated their freedom of expression.
The Constitutional Court ruling on the so-called Academics for Peace does not mean it embraces opinions of the petition that the applicants signed, the top court said in a statement on July 30th. The court said the Constitutional Court has been aware of the concerns on statements and actions that would seriously escalate the state of security in the region, where terrorist incidents that have led to casualties that required a declaration of state of emergency in most of the country for the last 4 decades. The court said, moreover, it also is aware that the declaration in question was prepared in a particular perspective and a one-sided manner, contains exaggerated comments, and includes hurtful and aggressive remarks about the security forces. The comments indicating that the petition should benefit protection of freedom of expression in Article 26 of the Constitution does not mean that the Constitutional Court shares the same opinions or supports these opinions, said the statement. The statement signed by the applicants was indeed unacceptable for the majority of society, said the court, noting that it is not possible to agree with a declaration that accuses the state, which has been struggling against terrorism, of massacring, slaughtering, and torturing people. Nevertheless, the statements, with which the Constitutional Court in no way agrees, can fall within the scope of freedom of expression, the court said, noting when assessing whether expression or statement remains within the scope of freedom of expression, it is not decisive whether the statements in question are true or disturbing. It is clear that the opinions in the petition signed by the applicants were clearly different from the majority of the society. However, precisely for this reason, it is necessary to be more sensitive in terms of judicial response to such statements, said the court. It should be foreseen that there can be severe criticism against the public power that carries out the operations which led to the signing of the declaration and should be tolerated more in terms of democratic pluralism, said the court. Given all this information, the court concluded that the applicants' convictions did not correspond to a compulsory social need, said the statement. A total of 1,128 academics signed an initial petition which called for an end to the military operations in the southeast. Following the increasing criticism of the signatory academics, a second campaign was launched, increasing the number of participants to 2,218. Within the scope of a probe against the campaigns, 784 academics were sued, with 191 of them being sentenced to jail. However, sentences of most of the academics were suspended. On July 26th, the top court ruled that the convictions of 10 academics on charges of making propaganda for a terrorist organization had violated their right to freedom of expression. The verdict was given with a vote of 8-8, a tie that left the initiative to Constitutional Court head Zühtü Arslan. But the court drew reactions from some segments of society. A group of Turkish academics has launched a campaign against the recent Constitutional Court ruling. The Constitutional Court has made a scandalous decision, read the July 29th petition, accusing the top court of disrespecting the memories of the martyrs and veteran soldiers and hurting consciences. Statements that condemn the state for fighting against terrorism cannot be evaluated as freedom of speech in any country on earth. It read, also criticizing their colleagues, some of whom were sentenced to prison for signing a January 2016 petition.
Joining us tonight to talk about the Constitutional Court's decision on the Academics for Peace is Professor Teoman Pamukçu from the Middle East Technical University in Ankara. Good evening, Professor Pamukçu. It's good to have you on This Week in Turkey.
Thank you.
So, Professor, you're one of the academics who signed the petition in question. How do you evaluate the Constitutional Court's decision on the ongoing trials?
Yes, so more than 2,000 academics, including myself, signed a petition in January 2016 asking for an end to military intervention in the southeast of Turkey and for the reconduction of peace process, so-called peace process, and so we have been pursued in heavy penal court since December 2017 on different charges, but especially and mainly on terrorist propaganda charges. According to the Turkish penal code, so I am delighted by this ruling, by this decision of the highest court of law in Turkey. When I read it, I must confess, I said to myself, wow, this is unbelievable. At last, a decision that respects universally the freedom of expression was provided in this country. So I mean, we don't have enough time to examine the different the verdict of the Constitutional Court, the highest court of law in this country. But it simply says that all the people who has been on trial because they signed the peace petition. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong, and that the freedom of expression has been violated by these trials. So I must say I'm really happy for me, for the academics for peace and for this country.
Mm-hmm. And Professor Pamukçu, what do you think about the reactions that came after the Constitutional Court's decision? For instance, a group of academics, 1,071 to be exact, have signed a petition that condemns this decision by the Constitutional Court. So how did you find these reactions?
Yes, I must say I am really. I can say I have lived abroad for many years, so I have traveled a lot. So I know what's going on in lots of countries in the academic circles. I have never seen academic academic institution protesting for a court decision. And I must remind that this is a decision, a ruling that was given by the highest court of law in this country. I have never seen an academic institution protesting for a ruling that is in favor of freedom of expression. So I'm really unhappy for these institutions, but of course there is a reason behind this protestation, behind this counter petition or the petition against the ruling of the Constitutional Court. I mean, these academics were probably more than probably forced to give their signatures in this petition that protest against the ruling. I mean, the reason is that the university presidents that are there for a reason. They have been appointed there. They were not elected since November 2016. There are no elections for university presidents in Turkey. They are appointed. So it simply shows that these people have been appointed for a reason. And so I'm not astonished, but I am really, how can I say, not happy at all for these universities, for the academics that have been working there, and for the academic institutions in Turkey. But maybe we should go beyond the universities, beyond the university presidents. There are many reactions against the ruling of the Constitutional Court in the newspapers, in the mainstream newspapers. There are many of them in Turkey, and my impression is that there are serious major disagreements among the people who are the elite, who are a member of the ruling party in power in Turkey. Some of them are wondering whether the way Turkey is governed for more than 10 years is sustainable. So they are asking some questions to themselves, to other people. And there is the other party who are against any kind of democratization, any kind of normalization in this country. And I would like maybe to end my contribution by saying that this ruling of the Constitutional Court simply says that all the peace academics who are on trial these trials should be ended, and all the people who have been dismissed by statutory decree laws should be reinstated at their posts. So more than 400 people, peace academics for peace, have been dismissed by statutory decrees during the state of emergency. This ruling simply says that this cannot go on.
Mm-hmm. So we will wait and see in the upcoming weeks how this decision will impact the ongoing trials. Thank you very much, Professor Pamukçu, for your comments and for being with us today.
You are welcome. Thank you.
We'll continue with our next news video now. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has said that ending the occupation of the island's north by Turkey is a top priority.
On his first visit to Cyprus since being elected on July 7th, Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said that ending the occupation of the divided island's north by Turkey is a top priority. Speaking after a meeting with Greek Cypriot leader Nikos Anastasiadis, Mitsotakis slammed Ankara for having a military presence on the island and said there would be no solution until they were removed. In response, Turkish Cypriot Foreign Minister Kudret Özersay said that troops were only there because of the 1974 coup that handed Cyprus to the Greek military junta. Özersay said, if Mitsotakis is after an illegal activity, he should look at the unilateral steps of Greek Cypriots in the Eastern Mediterranean, which usurped the rights of the Turkish Cypriots. The 1974 Cypriot coup was...
The National Defense Ministry released a statement on Tuesday saying that Turkey would be obliged to create a safe zone on its own in Syria in case it failed to find a common ground with the US.
Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar has told his US counterpart Mark Esper over a phone call that Turkey expects the US to completely end its support to the PKK-YPG terrorist group. Akar said Turkey would be obliged to create a safe zone on its own in case the two countries fail to find a common ground, according to a statement released by the National Defense Ministry on Tuesday. Akar emphasized that they would not allow a terror corridor in south of Turkey and that Turkey wants to assure safety and security of not only its country and people, but also other religious and ethnic groups like the Kurds, Arabs, Assyrians, Christians, and Yazidis living in the region. He said that the safe zone should be created under the criteria that include retrieval of all weapons from the PKK-YPG situated in the safe zone, wiping off the terrorist organization from the safe zone, which should be 30 to 40 kilometers in width, destruction of PKK-YPG's all tunnels, shelters, equipment and ammunition in the area, which will be controlled by Turkey and the US in coordination. Regarding the F-35 fighter jet program, Akar noted that Turkey was not just the customer of the project, but also the investor and production partner, and that the program should continue as planned. On the other hand, the National Security Council held a 6-hour meeting under the leadership of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday. At the council, Turkey vowed to step up what it calls a peace corridor along the eastern part of the Turkish-Syrian border after wiping out all terror organizations. Our determination for exerting efforts for setting up a peace corridor with all its strength and clearing the region of all terror elements in the frame of securing our border and because of the increased threats against our country due to power vacuum along our Syrian border, read the communique. The reference to the peace corridor has been interpreted as an important change in the Turkish government's rhetoric with regard to its negotiations with the United States on how to secure its Syrian border. In March, the Council referred to joint efforts with the United States for a safe zone. But as talks with Washington have not yet yielded results, this month's security meeting deliberately underlined Turkey's unilateral objective of creating a peace corridor in the said area.
Işın El-için did an interview this week with International Crisis Group senior analyst Dareen Khalifa. Khalifa argues that the US should reorient its diplomacy and leverage its diminishing military presence toward reaching a political agreement between Turkey and the YPG.
I mean, none of the solutions we have today are easy. But, I mean, we were trying to put forward some arrangements that we could think could be mutually tolerable by both the YPG and Ankara and can also sustain the protection of the area. One of these things, and it's also an issue that Crisis Group has been advocating for, is the issue of the foreign PKK-related cadres in Syria. Ankara has been continuously arguing that there are...
Sorry, we have a problem.
Through their senior cadres in Syria, is a problematic issue for them. And the removal or the pulling out some of these non-Syrian figures from their key positions in Syria is a very legitimate demand. And it is something the YPG is open to discussing. So while a direct peace agreement or settlement between the YPG and Ankara might be very difficult to achieve in the time being because the political atmosphere is not ripe, specifically in Ankara. Starting the process by building some confidence or pursuing some confidence-building measures, like the removal of the PKK senior cadres from Syria, is something the U.S. has leverage to do and has leverage to incentivize the YPG to pursue. And it is something that is going to address a huge part of Ankara's concern.
Yes.
Another thing that...
Yes, it's a very important point that you made, and sorry, I just interrupted, but go on with the other point that you mentioned in the report.
A second point that was also mentioned in the report, and I'll put forward what is expected from the YPG, but also it's important to put forward what is expected from Ankara in the process, but also the YPG insurgency in Afrin is something that is taking lives of innocent civilians, and it is just escalating the tensions between Ankara and the YPG. So this is something that the YPG leadership needs to understand, that it is counterproductive and it is not going to achieve any political gains for them, on the contrary.
Hundreds of demonstrators from local NGOs gathered in the Fatih district of Istanbul on Sunday to protest government policies against Syrian refugees.
Istanbul police detained 2 people on Saturday following a clash between members of civil society organizations protesting the crackdown on the country's Syrian refugees and a group of ultranationalists. Police intervened when a group attempted to attack members of Özgürler, Mazlumder, and the International Refugee Rights Association, who gathered in Istanbul's Saraçhane Park to protest against the reported detentions and forced returns of Turkey's Syrian refugees. Istanbul is home to over 500,000 of Turkey's some 3.6 million Syrian refugees. Turkish authorities have cracked down on the group over the last 10 days, with increasing reports of Syrians being coerced into signing forms saying they want to return to Syria before being dumped into war-torn country, among other practices. 2 people were detained after police used tear gas on a group of ultranationalists who attempted to attack representatives of civil society groups as they released a statement on the recent crackdown against the refugees. Özgürler chairman Rıdvan Kaya slammed Istanbul governor's office over its ultimatum to Syrian refugees to leave the city. If there are 3 of our criminals among these people, then you can separate them. But it is not justice to send these people, who are trying to make a living for their families, off to different provinces, Kaya said. Last week, Turkey had announced plans to limit the number of Syrian migrants in its largest city of Istanbul, with Syrian refugees initially registered in other cities, given a deadline of August 20th to leave the city or face forcible transfer. An estimated 200,000 of the more than 500,000 Syrian refugees in Istanbul were registered elsewhere.
Turkish filmmaker Ömer Atay's movie Kardeşler won the Best Feature Award in Iceland's Close-Up Reykjavik Film Festival last Friday.
The movie Kardeşler, Brothers, directed by Turkish filmmaker Ömer Atay, won the Best Feature Award in Iceland's Close-Up Reykjavik Film Festival on Friday. We are returning from Iceland with an award. The owner of the Best Feature Award in Close-Up Reykjavik Film Festival is Brothers, Atay said in his Twitter account on Monday. Making its world premiere in Karlovy Vary's Film Festival, the movie is a Turkish-German-Bulgarian co-production. The movie's first screening in Turkey will be made at the 25th International Adana Film Festival.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you again next Friday at 9 p.m. Goodbye.